Bloomberg's David Gura is back with us now. So this 15% tariff rate, put that into perspective for us and what kind of impact we might see here at home.
So we've seen the floor rise over the last few weeks. There was a lot of talk about being like a 10% floor for these tariffs. And then after Japan, it moved up to 15. So again, it's significant because the baseline before this was so much lower.
1.2%, right?
Exactly. And so in the Europe's case, a little bit higher than that. But we've heard from companies this morning, Heineken among them, that at 15%, that's a tariff that company is going to be able to absorb itself. So we'll see if other companies feel that way. But economists still say this is going to have a dramatic effect on the economy more broadly. It's going to change this relationship, which is such a crucial one. I mean, the U.S.-EU relationship is the largest one, $2 trillion in total of traded goods. So it's incredibly important. And I think you see the seriousness with which the EU approached this. There were a lot of trips back and forth by the EU to Washington. There were meetings at the G7 a few weeks ago. They understood the importance of this and what it would mean for the economy. And compared to all of these other trading partners around the world, it was the EU that was taking very concrete steps to retaliate against the U.S. If they weren't able to get a deal by August 1st, they were prepared to the tune of 100 billion euros, put in 30% tariffs of their own. So there was this movement toward retaliation. Obviously, we're not going to get there. But again, it shows how serious this was for that economy.
So did the U.S. take any hits with this deal? And what does it say, this outcome say about the president's ability to negotiate?
It's incredibly favorable for the United States. I mean, you look at this, it's been very one-sided. I mean, the U.S. has been making the demands, and these other countries have had to kind of contort and comport themselves to them. So they emerge fine here. But what's going to change is over the next weeks and months, as countries and trading partners like the EU look at this episode and think, can we trust this relationship with the U.S.? Can it continue? I think even looking at this deal, framework of which we don't have a ton of details. If that somehow goes south or changes, what's a trading partner like the EU to do? So we see them broaching new relationships with their other trading partners, looking for other opportunities. And I think that's going to be kind of the message here going forward. What's the legacy of these talks, of these threats going to be? And how are other countries going to kind of look at trade going forward? How are they going to change their tack now after all of this?
China is still a big question mark, and we know there are talks happening today, right, in Stockholm. Where do things stand there? So
we heard from the president this morning, and he had a very favorable read on those conversations. So the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, is leading them in Stockholm. This is the third meeting in less than 3 months between the U.S. and China. It's likely we're going to get an extension of that deadline. It was supposed to end on the 12th of August. We've seen that deadline move over and over again. I mean, this is the biggest issue for the U.S. and the thorniest issue. Yes, it has to do with the president's trade war, but this has been a challenging relationship for a very long time, economically and geopolitically, and that's going to continue here. So even if you look at the agenda of what the Treasury Secretary is going to be talking about with his counterpart, yes, it has to do with trade, but it's so much more. It has to do with what China produces, how its economy works, the oil and gas that China buys. So it's a broader conversation, and I think it's part of kind of a larger effort on this administration's part, which is a continuation of the past administrations to kind of restore a level of communication between these two economic competitors. We'll see what comes out of this. I don't expect any kind of grand resolution. I think what they would hope for is, again, movement towards some kind of deal and probably the promise of another meeting down the line.
Thanks for making those expectations realistic for us in terms of what we can anticipate. Meantime, there was the old 90 deals in 90 days. Then that deadline got pushed to August 1st. That is Friday. And here's the Commerce Secretary saying they're not going to budge on this deadline. Watch.
So no extensions, no more grace periods. August 1st, the tariffs are set. They'll go into place. Customs will start collecting the money, and off we go. Obviously, after August 1st, people can still talk to President Trump. I mean, he's always willing to listen. And between now and then, I think the president's going to talk to a lot of people. Whether they can make him happy is another question.
Your reaction to that?
This was always an arbitrary deadline, and we saw the extension of that pause. We've seen the tack from the president change in recent weeks. We've seen those letters go out. He was clearly frustrated with the pace of these negotiations and the difficulty of having to do so many at one time. To fight a trade war on dozens of fronts is extremely difficult, and we were never going to get the kind of detailed deals that I think the White House hoped for or wanted. So, look, those letters have gone out to many of these smaller economies saying what that tariff rate's going to be. As the Commerce Secretary said, it sounds like the door is open for them to kind of come in and continue to negotiate them.
But it also sounds like it all just is up to President Trump, and like whether his team has a big role in this or not
happiness remains the key variable here in these conversations. So I think that's going to continue to be the case going forward here, and we'll see how these other countries adjust.
David Gura, thank you very much.